Footballtribeug channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football update channel. We are into the about 87th minute of the game, and England are leading by 4-0 against Serbia, and Non Madueke being one of the goal scorers, as well as Ezri Kosa, and then of course the captain Harry Kane and Makehi there. So beautiful game of football for England. I think they are yet to concede in these qualifiers, so they continue with their sort of astronomical run against some of their opponents in as far as the World Cup qualifiers are concerned. Anyways, plenty for us to discuss on this Tuesday night slash evening. Of course, a lot has happened during the course of the day, but our main topic will revolve around the appointment of Ange Postecoglou as the new Nottingham Forest manager, following the sacking of Nuno Espirito Santo, which did happen and not too far back. So you can imagine what that means in the world of football. So it's sort of happened really fast. I think it's more like Nottingham Forest had prepared themselves for this kind of scenario. It's like they knew they were going to make this kind of decision. They already had their shortlists in mind, and it's not taken them long to make a decision. And it's been a kind of a swift decision in this particular case. So, anyways, I'm still struggling with a few things here. I'm trying to minimize my game to have meanwhile, allow me have our audios tested before we can get into the depth of this conversation this evening. Apologies on that. Trying to get our audios tested and make sure we do not miss out on a single thing. I know it's happened before multiple times where our audio is off. But anyways, I think all is good. Everything is checking out well. And yeah, I think we are good to go on the side of our audios being tested out. Yeah. Today, like I promised you yesterday, we did put out our second video with Aldrin Nsubuga Senior. This time around, speaking, of course, a little bit about the Uganda Cranes following their 2-0 victory against Somalia yesterday. On Monday nights, Alan Okello and Jude Semugabi among the goal scorers in that one, as Uganda beat up against Somalia by 2-0. So we did digest that in the first 15 minutes before we headed into the direction of the Premier League, and we discussed a lot of that. Sorry, I can't stay. I have to be up early in the morning. That's LFC for us, saying he has to be very early in the morning. He can't stay long. It's understandable. We all have our schedules, but LFC, please spare a moment tomorrow. Find it within your time to watch that video that we put out today with Aldrin Nsubuga Senior. He talks about why Liverpool will win the Premier League title. He's a big Liverpool fan. I think one of the most recognized Liverpool fans from Uganda, by the way, if I'm being honest. So do not miss out on that video. It's out of the channel. It's about 55 minutes, but like I said, for the first 15 minutes we did talk about the Uganda Cranes. Of course, we talked a lot about Liverpool. Then we have a sound bite on Arsenal. We did just talk about Chelsea. We had an anecdote on Manchester United. We spoke about Ange Postecoglou, of course, the sacking of Nuno Espirito Santo. It's been a mix of things, but I completely understand if you say you need to sleep and be up very early in the morning. Yeah, England leading by 2-0 as we speak. in their other qualifier against Serbia. Did I expect England to win? Absolutely yes. Did I expect a 4-0 rout? Certainly not. It's now 5 with Marcus Rashford scoring from the spot kick to make it 5-0 in favor of England in the dying embers of that game. Or so beautiful result. Meanwhile, Portugal are leading by 3-2 against Hungary. That game is also headed for stoppage time. Anyways, it's been I've not managed to actually catch this game of football because I was editing my upload, my video. It needed to be uploaded. There's a lot of work I had to catch up on because we did not have power for a good chunk of the day, so it sort of antagonized all our plans. But it's all good. It's all good. We will be giving you the results at the end of it all from those respective fixtures in as far as things are concerned. But like I said, please do go to the channel, check out that video of with me speaking to Aldrin Sugar Senior, an ardent Liverpool fan, also a KCCFC fan. Unfortunately, the news on the Uganda Premier League format being voted in by 13 Premier League teams came after our interview. But yeah, so starting off on home soil, 13 clubs did vote in favor of the new Uganda Premier League format, a very, very chaotic format, which I think Sports Club Villa, NEC and Vipers did, leave that meeting where clubs had settled, because we are also getting reports that club officials were called by federation officials. That's the football, the Federation of Uganda Football Associations, threatening them, with all sorts of manner of threats. One of them being that if you are to object to the new league format, then you're dubbed an opposition, supporter, and those kinds of things. And guess what? If I can be honest, it's the poor that have been scared. It's the poor ones that have largely been scared. Maybe the other notable ones for me is actually what we are getting is that KCCA it's like they did not officially vote to say yes or no. It's more like an abstinence. But I mean, it seems like URA, yes, it's a government entity, but you do not have to sing like a canary, because NEC is also equally more or less a government entity, but they've said, no, this is not good, But the timing of these changes is very, very suspicious. And the speed at which this is being driven at how it is being shoved down people's throats, this new Uganda Premier League format, there's something fishy. There's something absolutely fishy going on in there. I do not know who directly stands to benefit, but I know for a fact it's not the clubs. Yes, the new money that they are introducing in is good, but no, not for me. Football is not going to win on this one. Trust me. And in any case, it's going to increase our chances of fixing games. It's going to increase that, because after you played the second round, actually, after you played the first round and you qualify for the second round, for which the top 6 qualify for the third round, you have nothing to play for. Especially, let's assume you're a newly promoted side and you won a couple of games that guaranteed that you finished within the top 8. Basically, your season is as good as that. You're confirmed you're not going to be relegated for the subsequent season. So you go to round 2 where you go to play home and away just for the money. The money in which in itself is not that too big a deal. As in, it's not too much for you to really die for, really. If I'm being honest, it's not like you're fighting for $100,000. No, that's not the case. In any case, the most you can get probably is somewhere should be less than actually around $10,000 or $12,000. Around that, that's what you're going to get. And things like that. So really, you look at that and think to yourself, football as we know it, in my opinion, I think is on the verge of its ruins in as far as league football is concerned in Uganda. With this new format, it's it's on his way. It's on its way in ruins. But I know somebody somewhere is going to directly benefit, and this is going to be more financially. Well, let's wait to hear more from the stakeholders, because we have sponsors that are sponsoring the league. That's the Star Times Uganda Premier League. They also sponsor the big league. You have Bill Smith for the match day man of the match award, among others. But clubs also have shirt sponsors. What does that mean for them? And things like that. And things like that. At the end of the day, we'll see. We'll see. But that's the update from that. Anyways, quickly away from that, I can see Just for the Laugh says, good evening. Good evening to you, my brother, Just for the Laugh. How have you been? It's been what? About a fortnight without seeing you on the broadcast. What happened? Are you okay? Is everything good with you? Meanwhile, guys, that game between England and Serbia has wrapped up, of course, with England winning the fixture by 5 goals to 0. Like I said, Marcus Rashford stepped forward and scored a resultant penalty, which was awarded against Ollie Watkins for a foul on Ollie Watkins. Marcus Rashford scored that to seal the 5-0 victory for England in that group, in the World Cup qualifiers. McKay, Esri Konsa, Noni Madueke, and Hurricane were the other goal scorers on the day in as far as those World Cup qualifiers go. So we'll be looking at that as well. Then we'll also get to then Portugal. Portugal have equally just won their fixture against Hungary, beating them by 3 goals to 2. Pedro says, I'm well, thanks. And yourself? I've been all right. I don't feel well. It was right for me to come in after Arsenal lost to the mighty Reds. Lolo. Completely understood. How has the international break treated you? Are you a fan of the international break, or it bores you as many as the football fans that I know? I know quite a number of them, majority of whom the international break is one that bores them, even though they still pay allegiance to their respective national teams. But it's that kind of period that many league fans do not really appreciate much. So yeah, basically that's on that side. Anyways, England versus Serbia. Yes, that's a game I'm trying to look for in this particular case. Jesus Christ, what's this nonsense? Oh, it's football, but it's not club football. Most English fans get behind the team in finals and not group stages. I think that's true. That's true. I think yeah, like I hinted on something similar yesterday, that majority of the football fans, when it comes to their respective national teams, they they don't care much about the qualifiers. What they care most about is the final tournaments. So, for example, people do not care much about the Euro qualifiers. They care about the Euros. Same applies for the FIFA World Cup. They care about the World Cup itself, not the qualifiers. Same applies for the Africa Cup of Nations. Same applies for the Africa Championships. That's CHAN. I think the story is quite very similar when it comes to that relatability in terms of what fans care for. And indeed, league football is one that dominates most of the time, and it's only understandable. But at the moment in England, if you fly to St. George, if you fly to St. George, if you fly the St. George flag, you are branded a racist. A crazy world we live in. By the way, England, why do you guys have two flags? I mean, there's that one with the sort of red cross, and then there's the other one that has the blue, white, I think, and red. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, what's the difference between the two flags? yes, I understand now you define one as the St. George flag, but and why is it dubbed racist? What's the historical context behind that? I've always been baffled by the idea that both can be used in the representation of the same country. You know, St. George is England, a flag. Then the Union Jack is Great Britain. Okay, okay, that's I guess that explains it or sums it up, because the Great Britain, or as United Kingdom is defined, is that Scotland is in there, and is it Northern Ireland? So yeah, I understand that bit. I understand that bit now. So why does the St. George flag have to be racist if the British natives pay respect to it? Great Britain flag is made for England, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. Completely understood. Completely understood. So why then is the St. George flag dubbed racist in your view? Anyways, guys, quickly, like I said, in the other results, France, by the way, are leading Iceland by 2-1. Azerbaijan and Ukraine shared the spoils in a one-goal draw. Armenia beat up against Ireland by 2-1. Portugal, like I said, beaten up against Hungary by 3-2. Bernardo Silva, Cristiano Ronaldo from the penalty spot, and Joao Cancelo, the goal scorers there, for Portugal, while Vaga scored a brace for Hungary. From the look of things, Portugal still lead the pile with 6 points after 2 games played. Armenia comes second with 3 points. Hungary and Ireland all have just 1 point. Then quickly, Bosnia and Herzegovina lost to Austria by 2-1, while Cyprus and Romania shared the spoils in a 2-2 draw, and Norway put 11 past Moldova. I mean, what a routing that was! What a routing that was! Jesus Christ! Was that still a qualifier? But anyways, let's look at Norway's goals. Brad Erling Haaland had the first half hat trick. Martin Odegaard also scored, but at the end of the day, Haaland scored 5 goals. Asgard scored a hat trick. I mean, what a night! What a night that was for Norway. Hi Pedri, how are you? How have you been? You seem to be a very, very busy man lately. You've been a bit on and off on the forum, in as far as the forum is concerned. But I hope when league football returns, you will equally return in the same, strength or breadth. Then of course, oh Jesus Christ, struggling with this. Albania beating up against Latvia by 2-1. Oh, school, completely understood. Completely understand. School can get in the way of so many things, just as much as work can be. Then England putting 5 past Serbia, like I said, Hurricane, Noni Madueke, of course, Marcus Rashford, Ezri Kosa, and Mark Gehi among the goal scorers in that one. Egypt shared the spoils with Burkina Faso, that's on the African continent. Senegal went away and beat up against DRC Congo by 3-2. That's a very, very significant result in as far as that group is concerned. Group B of the qualifiers for the World Cup. That means Senegal moved to top of the group with 18 points, while DRC are at 16 points in second place. So a quick turn of events in that one. So anyways, quickly, let's leave all that at that. I know you're happy. Yeah, Rashford squad. Hopefully he scores for us more goals. Let's hope that will be the case, because we will have about 4 weekends of football when we do return for the international break. After the international break, before we go into the October international break. So do not forget, in October, for those of you that hit the international break, there's another disappointing period for you. Wait for that. Anyways, guys, let's talk about Nottingham Forest. Nuno Espirito Santo sacked. Ange Postecoglou hired. I mean, what a sharp contrast in managers between the previous one and then his predecessor. What a sharp contrast. you have a largely conservative manager in Nuno Espirito Santo, and then you have a largely progressive manager in Ange Postecoglou. Do you think Nottingham Forest are headed the right direction? As he loves to say it, he always wins a trophy in his second season. Well, we are going to officially consider this his first season. There's nothing like half season because it's only 3 games that have been played. Yes, he's not had a preseason. He's missed. He's missed. 3 games. You remember? You remember a period of time when Ed Howe last season was sick and he was sidelined. He could not make the bench, and Jason Tino was the one making it. So we're just going to take the assumption that that Ange Postecoglou was only absent for 3 games because the season is still all ahead of him. But guys, what are your thoughts on the appointment of Ange Postecoglou? All I see is a sharp contrast. Those players are going to have they're going to sort of have to flip their entire playing style, their entire playbook, because we're talking about a manager in Nuno Espirito Santo that was conservative in a manner of defending. They defended really well and quite deep. They wanted to exploit majority of teams on the counter-attack using the pace of Morgan Gibbs-White, using the pace of Anthony Elanga, who is now left to join Newcastle, Elliot Anderson, with those quick passes in midfield, and things like that. Calm Hudson-Odoi, you remember last season, they managed to beat up against Manchester City by 1-0. They beat up against Liverpool by 1-0. I think that was at Anfield, and on both occasions, it was Calm Hudson-Odoi that scored those goals. So, I mean, that's what I see. In comparison, on the side of Ange Postecoglou, while in the finals of the UEFA Europa League, when they beat up against Manchester United at Tottenham, he played a conservative style of football where they defended really deep. They were not so eager to go forward. It was again another departure from his own playing style for that final. But we understand why he did it. He simply did it because he wanted to go there, win a game, win himself a trophy, which he did. The first official, major trophy for Tottenham Hotspur in 17 years. Does he bring silverware to Nottingham Forest? That's one question. 2, do you think he has the players that suit his playing style? Personally, I think he has. Because when you bring in players like Danny Doe, when you bring in players like Omar Hudson, when you bring in players like Calmuendo, they brought in as many as 13 players. And of course, Nuno Espirito Santo was opposed to that because he prefers to have a bit of a narrow-ish squad so that people compete knowing that they are going to be in a matchday squad. That matchday squad of about 15, 18 players, thereabout. That's what he wanted for people to compete. It's more of a more nucleus group to manage as opposed to having a bloated squad. Now, of course, Nottingham Forest, they had their transfer business or majority of their transfer business delayed because in part, they were waiting on the verdict that was supposed to come from UEFA in regards to where they play, whether it was going to be the Europa League or the UEFA Conference League that they had qualified for. Now, once they were confirmed that they were going to play in the UEFA Europa League by UEFA, you remember Crystal Palace went to the Court of Arbitration for Sport to appeal the decision that had relegated them to the UEFA Europa League out of the Conference League. That had relegated them from the UEFA Europa League to the Conference League for breaching of UEFA's, multi-club ownership rules. Now, it is after the Court of Arbitration for Sport pronounced itself in favor or in agreement with the UEFA decision that Nottingham Forest got to find out that they are going to be competing in the UEFA Europa League as opposed to the UEFA Conference League. So that in itself sort of saw the delay on their transfer business. Nonetheless, they managed to bring in as many as 13 players, possibly, including Alexander Zichenko on the final day of the transfer window. So Igor Jesus was one of those that came in, Cherif, Yaya, Giaconia, Angus Gunn, Omar Hudson, James McAtee for Manchester City, Calmuendo, Douglas Luiz, very brilliant signing, in my opinion. Nicole Savona from Juventus, John from Botafogo, Kaubano, Dylan Bakwa, as well as Alexander Zichenko. All these are players that came in quite expensively, because you have at least 3 or 4 players. You have about 4 players who cost the club about 30 million pounds plus, and then you have there, I think, another couple that cost the club about 25 million pounds or thereabout. So it's a huge investment. When you look at it, it does run out to about 196 million pounds, in total, in regards to what Evangelos Marinakis and spent on this transfer window. Of course, Edu Gaspar Dawood being the new head of football with that Nottingham Forest, and the rest of the group, he spearheaded the recruitment and summer spending spree. Now, the two did not get along in Nuno Espirito Santo and Edu Gaspar Dawood. Then we had a scathing interview, or in a pre-match press conference, where Nuno Espirito Santo acknowledged that his relationship with the boss, Evangelos Marinakis, had declined, or had sort of, the gap between them had grown with the coming in of Edu and things like that. We were hearing those things. He was so open about it. Nonetheless, and for most that have that cover Nottingham Forest much closer, according to the Athletic, the UK, they say the writing was on the wall, that sooner or later Nottingham Forest were going to have to part ways with Nuno Espirito Santo, because they felt that the bridge could not be rebuilt between Nuno Espirito Santo and Evangelos Marinakis, given how publicly he had come out to criticize, them, and things like that, or how he openly came out about things that were happening behind closed doors and things like that. Nonetheless, so either way, the decision was made to part ways with him. We're talking about a manager that came to Nottingham Forest in December 2023 for that 2023-2024 campaign, helped them survive relegation, and last season guided them to a 10-place improvement finish, because previous campaign they had finished 17th on the Premier League floor, and last season they finished 7th. So you can see the leap forward. 65 points on their tally. By the time we were at the tail end of March, we're talking about Nottingham Forest competing for top 4. Yes, they failed at that attempt with a couple of poor results, including, I think, a draw at the tail end of the season against Crystal Palace. But all that notwithstanding, they still had a very, very tremendous achievement under Nuno Espirito Santo, with players like Marcels in goal, with players like Moriro in defense, Ola Aina, with players like Nikola Milinkovic, or the defender, like I said, Elliot Anderson, who they signed from Newcastle last season, and things like that. So you look at all that composition, Chris Wood, Morgan Gibbs-White, Calm Hudson-Odoi, Anthony Langa, that whole composition of players. So they had great success. Now, I did speak about this, and I was saying, if I was Evangelos Marinakis, maybe I would be parting away with Edu Gaspar Dawood, as opposed to a manager that has sort of fitted into this Nottingham Forest side really well, and he's on the pitch, he's delivered the goods, but maybe, like maybe often the case is, it's not just about what you deliver on the pitch. For those of you that do care to remember, I think it was in 2006 when Fabio Capello is sacked at Real Madrid, even after winning the Spanish La Liga, before he goes on eventually to get that job with the England national team. I think taking over the reins, was it from Steven Golan Eriksson? Was it? Or anyway, whichever the case was, so you look at that and say, and sort of understand why, you understand sort of why, why they had to part ways with, with Nuno Espirito Santo. The writing was really on the wall. So that unfortunately it happened that way, but yeah, it had to happen. and it's been done. And in a quick run or a quick turn of events, they've managed to appoint a former Tottenham Hotspur's manager in Ange Postecoglou. We are talking about a guy who, until 2.5 months ago, was a Tottenham Hotspur manager. They sacked him after winning them the UEFA Europa League, and he was out of work because of their poor performance in the Premier League. I mean, Daniel Levy's actions were justified to sack Ange Postecoglou, although the decision in itself wasn't popular across board amongst the Tottenham Hotspur fans. There are those that thought that even regardless of they did acknowledge their poor performances in as far as the Premier League was concerned, but there were extenuating circumstances. We know how the team was ravaged with injuries, and not short or small injuries. Many of them were long-term injuries to players like Mickey Van de Ven. Christian Romero was out. Guillermo Vicario, the goalkeeper. We know about Dejan Kuzeski. James Maddison had a stint out on the sidelines. Song Heung-min, Lucas Bagville, Rodrigo Bentancur. I mean, all those players at one point had their injury concerns to contend with, and it did not help. It did not help them in their advances in as far as the Premier League was concerned. Nonetheless, they managed to stay competitive and pushed forward until they reached the finals of the UEFA Europa League, including having to knock out a team like Eintracht Frankfurt, who were the 2022 champions of the competition. That's the UEFA Europa League. You remember they won it under the charges of Oliver Glasner. So impressively, they got there, and they did not just get there to feature, they also went on to win it. And when they beat Man United by goal to nil, that scrappy goal squad by Brennan Johnson. So he was sacked, and now he's been appointed at Nottingham Forest. Like I said, the two are very, very contrasting managers in terms of philosophy, in terms of footballing style, between Nuno Santo and Ange Postecoglou. So I can't wait to see how he does fare in that role as far as Nottingham Forest is concerned. Unfortunately for him, or fortunately, depending on which way you look at it, his first game is going to be a trip away to Arsenal. It's no easy ask. Nonetheless, should we expect a new manager bounce for Ange Postecoglou with these new players, or given that some of these players are away on international duty, he's not going to have a lot of time to work with them about tactics and a shift in playing style just in time to go and take on Arsenal and get a result? Because remember, it's going to be the early kickoff on Saturday at 2:30 p.m. East African time, when the Gunners meet off with Nottingham Forest. So, I mean, those are my impressions about this. It doesn't feel right, but it's how it's happened. It's one we have to accept. I can't wait to see whether Ange Postecoglou is going to leave with that revengeful kind of thought to show Tottenham Hotspurs what they are going to miss. Remember, he had told them season 3 is always better, and he never got the chance to stay to see season 3 through. And now he's back. He's back to top flight football. He's back with Nottingham Forest. Anyways, we will leave that at that. But those are my thoughts. Ange Post, in terms of the owner, in Evangelos Marinakis, he's a guy. He likes to spend the money on the team, but he's a feisty one, I must say. You remember, because Nuno Espirito Santo comes in after the sacking of Steve Cooper. Steve Cooper, who I think recently got himself a job with Brandon Lee, on a 3-year contract. Anyways, guys, what are your thoughts? Please do not forget, there's a new episode on the channel under our video section. Go to the video section and watch that interview with Aldrin Suga Sr., a very lifelong time fan of Liverpool. He talks about Liverpool. We talk about the Tenderfriends. He talks about Mikel Arteta as being the stumbling block between Arsenal and major silverware. and then of course, yeah, things like that. It's a bit of a lengthy conversation of about 55 minutes. But please do me the absolute favor, go over there to the channel and watch it. Leave me your comments down in the comment section and your views about it all. Then what else have we missed? Otherwise, because that's the gist of it all, in regards to what's happening, the appointment of Nuno Espirito Santo, sorry, the sacking of Nuno Espirito Santo, and the replacement of him. And the replacement of him with Ange Postecoglou is a bit of a nice one. Anyways, let's go back to some of those qualifiers. Now, as far as individual performances go, Noni Madueke ought to receive his flowers tonight because he had a good game. He had a decent game with that England national team. Anyways, we at least we've covered the confirmation of the new Uganda Premier League formats. For those of you that are wondering what that is, again, go to the channel. Under the video section, you will see that new Champions League, sorry, new Uganda Premier League format explained by Ogrin Nsubuga about the 3 different phases in which it will be played and things like that. Otherwise, thank you so much, Pedri. Thank you so much, Just for the Laughs. Thank you so much, LFC, and every single one of you that spared a minute to be with us tonight. For those of you that watch our broadcasts long after they've ended, we do not take your time for granted. You always are really, really appreciated. So, like I said, please go to the channel under the video section and watch those 2 videos that have come through. One we dropped one on Sunday, and another has dropped today, all with Audrey Nsubuga Senior, talking about Uganda Cranes Premier League. In his opinion, he thinks Ruben Amorim is not the right man for the job at Manchester United. He thinks Liverpool will defend the Premier League title. He thinks Man City are going to struggle, but they will finish 3rd. So he gives his prediction of the top 4. He gives us his best 3 signings of the transfer window in as far as the Premier League is concerned, and then which team had the best transfer window overall. In terms of squad balance, net spend, and revenues coming through, and things like that. So yeah, those are some of the things that we'll get to talk about in that particular interview or engagement with him. We'll be looking to do more of those, but sometimes it's not easy to to get these people on board. To do interviews with them, and that's why we are always often very, very glad when somebody gives us the moment to be with them and talk football and talk everything football. Yeah, so that's it for me. Have yourselves a blessed night, and let's meet up again tomorrow morning and talk again more sports. I will digest this further as we start to look forward to the weekend ahead, because club football does get underway. Tomorrow is Wednesday, I think. If it's already Wednesday, and yeah, there will be a lot to unwrap going into the weekend. Of course, some international games will still be played. The very last of them, I think, should be coming through tomorrow. As we speak, Benin are leading by 2-0 against Lesotho. Gambia at 2-0 up against Burundi. So then in CONCACAF qualification, there Curacao against Bermuda. Jamaica will take on Trinidad and Tobago. Costa Rica up against Haiti. Honduras against Nicaragua. Those are some of the fixtures that are coming later in the night or very early in the morning because of the difference in time zones for many of you. Then quickly, guys, sorry, I missed giving you the results from the Africa World Cup qualifiers. I only mentioned Egypt. I think Egypt and Senegal. Those results I did give. Then Togo beat up against Sudan by 1-0. Mauritania and South Sudan shared the spoils in a goalless draw. Rwanda beat up against Zimbabwe by a goal to nil, while South Africa, Nigeria, that one ended in a 1-1 draw. Like I said, Benin are 2-0 up against Lesotho, while Cape Verde beat up against Cameroon by a goal to nil. Angola beat up against Mauritius by 3-1, and then Tanzania lost to Niger at home by a goal to nil. Kenya beat Seychelles or Seychelles 5-0. An impressive result there for Kenya. Gabon and Ivory Coast shared the spoils in a goalless draw, while Gambia beat up against leading Burundi by 2-0. Namibia beat Sao Tome and Principe by 3-0. So those are some of the results from the World Cup qualifiers on the African continent. Otherwise, stay blessed. Good night, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye for now.